We've been talking about using array models as a way to visualize multiplication. Now we're starting to understand that better. We can take a step towards doing it just with numbers. So that is a strategy I'm showing you today. I actually have two different ways to do this. One is much more closely linked with what we've been doing in class, and the other is the more traditional, a little bit more abstract way of modeling it. So I'm going to start by doing an example of a way that is very similar to what we've been doing in class. So to do that, let's look at a question together of 32 times 45. So when we've been in class so far, we've been visualizing this as a grid of 45 by 32. We've been splitting that up, so it's like having 30 and 2 and like having 40 and 5, which gives us these four different areas to do our multiplication. So if I was to go about doing it that way as we've done before, I will be doing the 40 times 30 gives me 1,200. 40 times 2 gives me 80. 30 times 5 is 150. And lastly, 2 times 5 is 10. And then I add those numbers up to get my total. And I end up with an answer of 1,440. If I want to try and do this question without using that same model and trying to do it a little bit more abstract, what I can do is this. So over here on this side is just another way to organize doing the exact same thing that I just did over there. I'm going to leave this over here so you can see how these four numbers that I came up with the first time are actually going to come back. So like how I have the 1200 and the 80 and the 10 and the 150, you'll see how those come up when I'm doing this in this different way. So traditionally we would see 32 times 45 written like this, the numbers on top of each other. And typically we would always suggest that you start by multiplying from this position. So whichever number is in the bottom corner is the number we're going to start multiplying by. So first thing we're going to multiply is 5 times the 2 right above it. And 5 times 2 is 10. So I'm just going to record a 10. Next up, we are going to do 5 times this 3. But that 3 is in the tens place. So this is really 5 times 30. So that gives me 150. So I have now multiplied the 5 by the 2 and the 5 by the 30, so I can move on to multiplying this 4 by those same numbers. But that 4 is not just 4, it's in the tens place, so that's actually 40. So I'm going to think about this like 40 times 2, which is 80. And then 40 times 30, which just like before was 1,200. And like I mentioned before, we're going to see a direct connection here. You see I've got the 10 that's here, I've got the 150 that's here, I've got the 80 that's here, and lastly the 1,200 that's over here. And then just like before, I can do my addition to end up with 1,440. Let's walk through those steps again with a new question. So the first thing we're going to multiply is our 5 times the 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. Next, we're going to multiply the 5 by the 4. But that 4 is really a 40. So our answer is going to be 200. Next, we're going to multiply that 2, which is really a 20. 20 by 3. Which gives us 60. And lastly, we're going with 20 times 40 for a total of 800. We can add up those four answers to get 1,075. Okay, so I'm going to give you a new question to do. like you to pause the video, try this question on paper or whiteboard, and then let us know when you're ready by pressing that unpause button, and we'll see how you did. All right, so let's walk through this one again. So we start by doing 4 times the 5 gives us 20. 4 times 30 is 120. 20 times 5 is 100. And 20 times 30 is 600. So I can add all those up for a grand total of 840 for this question. You are welcome to stop this video now and go to the practice questions, but if you would like to see one more strategy that you might find to be a little bit more efficient, you're welcome to stick around to practice some. So in this way of solving this is more of the traditional way. So it's probably the way that your parents and I learned how to do it when we were in school. So to start off, the steps are very similar. We say to ourselves, what is 4 times 3? And the answer is 12. So we put the 2 here in the ones place, and we have to regroup and put the 1 from that 12 in the tens column. Next up, we can say, what is 6 times 4? So that's 24, plus the 1 that we carried makes 25. And now we have multiplied 4 by 63. So 252 is what we would have if we multiplied 4 times 63. So now our job is to go and multiply 20 by 63. And again, this strategy is a little bit different. So we can continue to think about this number as just being a 2 with this strategy, because what we do is we write a 0 here. And that's just to indicate that we are not multiplying anything by the ones. We are jumping in. Everything from this point on is times 10, basically, or in the tens. So I am now going 2 times 3 is 6. And I can say, what is 2 times 6? Well, that's 12. And now I have done my multiplication. I've got 4 times 63 is 252, and 20 times 63 is 1,260. So now, like our other strategy, I can just add those up. 2, I get 11, 5, and 1 for a total of 1,512. Let's do one more following this strategy. How about the question 75 times 23? So again, my step 1 is to multiply 3 by the full number of 75. So we start by saying, what's 3 times 5 is 15, and I carry the 1, I regroup. Next up is to say, what is 3 times 7? That's 21. Plus the 1 makes 22. And because the 2, this 20, doesn't have anything in the ones place, I have to put this 0. If you forget that 0, your whole answer is going to be wrong, so it's really important. So now I can say, what is 2 times 5? That's 10, so I put a 0, and I regroup the 1. And then what is 2 times 7? Well, that's 14, plus 1 is 15. Now I have 3 times 75 is 225. 20 times 75 is 1,500. So now I can just add up those two numbers to get my full answer of 1,725. So whichever strategy works best for you, you are more than welcome to use in my class, but I hope that this was helpful for practicing some new strategies. Thanks.